Welcome to the Marketing and Me podcast. If you're eager to grow your health and wellness business via effective marketing methods while maintaining your own health and wellness, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Leanne Shelton, and I help business owners, just like you, build trustworthy connections with their ideal clients. And I do this through engaging, conversational copywriting and strategic advice at right time marketing. So feel free to book in a free 30-minute discovery call with me after listening to today's episode. The details are in the show notes. But now I'd like to introduce you to my guest, Julie Cliff, a professional organizer at Space and Time. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you, Leanne. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now, as you probably understand, the working mother juggle isn't easy, and it can make life feel overly busy, stressful, and overwhelming, at least. So Julie is a professional organizer who works with working mothers in particular and helps them create easier, far less stressful lives through simple, easy to implement organizing systems. So the goal here is to clear the clutter both mentally and physically. Julie injects space and time into her clients' lives to make life simpler and much more fun.
That's it.
So tell us a little bit more about you and your business journey. How did you get into this whole decluttering type of world?
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Leanne. I'm an executive assistant and administrator by trade, so always enjoyed being organised and organising those around me. So that's where my first 20 years of work was. And 15 of those years was at Melbourne Storm Rugby League Club.
Oh, cool.
So that was fabulous, and really loved being there. And with the cyclical nature of the football season, I found that it really suited me quite well, and found that implementing systems and processes really made sense. If you had, a letter to send out to somebody, you'd get it ready so that you could send it out next season as well, and mail merges and email templates and those sorts of things, because you've got your off season, you've got the start of the season, the middle of the season, the end of the season, and then the next one starts again. So it made sense to start putting those systems and processes in place. And then while I was there for some years, as I said, I used those processes quite a lot, and then I started to implement these sorts of systems at home. And so that would be meal planning, going regularly shopping at the same time, and then food prepping. And just that simple thing made such a lot of difference to my life, and how, a bit of the cyclical nature of, our rhythm of our week as well. And so that was something that I came up with myself. And then I could see that other working mums were struggling with similar things themselves. So I thought, there's a little bit of an idea here, a bit of a niche where I would be able to help people that aren't naturally organised. And somehow when I was Googling, I came across the Association of Professional Organisers and found a like-minded group of about 80 Melbourne organisers at the time. There's lots of them across Australia as well, of course. And so that was about 6 years ago. And I still meet with those ladies monthly. And I could see back when I first met them that other people are making a living by helping others get organised at home, so that you're not having to juggle so many things, get clear on your priorities. And that means that going to work is much easier, whether that's working for yourself. And so that's sort of how my business came about.
Very cool. Yeah, I like to say I'm an organised person. I do. My dad just commented the other day, actually, you're just so methodical, because I get up early in the morning and I do my meditation, and then I get all the lunches ready, and by this time, if I'm not on track, then I know that things are going to be rushed the rest of the morning. And I like to be organised, I guess, and have that structure to my day. It calms me, actually.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think it probably helps the kids as well. If you're going to get up running late and you're going crazy, well, that's what the kids are going to take to school as well. So I think it's a great one, Leanne, to get yourself up early and get yourself organised and have some bit of me time before they're even out of bed.
Yeah, and you said as well about the meal planning thing before, because I used to in the past go, oh, it's 5:30. Okay, look in the fridge. What can I kind of throw together? And sometimes it just wasn't enough to do anything, and you just be like, eh. But I think it was actually when I had my youngest, I started doing meal planning, so a week in advance, and it just made such a difference to my week. I'm like, all right, that's what I'm having today. That's what meat I have to get out. Or go, all right, let's plan this, but I actually don't have those things. So I know when I go to the shops, just get those things, just focus on this week. And it just, yeah, I know what's going. Look, my grandmother actually used to do this. She'd have a whiteboard, and we'd go over for dinner on a Tuesday night, and I'd do dancing afterwards.
Yeah.
And she always had her meal plan. And it's only recently I clicked that I'm doing exactly what my grandmother did.
Yeah, my grandma used to have we would call it tea growing up on the phone, so our dinner ready at 8 o'clock in the morning. So all the veggies were cut up, same thing, very organised, makes such a difference to your life.
Oh, that's extra organised. I'm not, unless I've got my slow cooker happening. It's otherwise 5:30. All right, quickly, and I only ever make things that take like half an hour maximum to prepare.
Yeah.
So then, like, all right, 5:30, be ready on the table. 6, or worst case scenario, 6:10, and we're away to go. So yeah, so tell us. We've covered a little bit, but the benefits of planning.
Yeah, planning is very important to help with focus. I find that the women that I work with in particular, juggling family and work or businesses, they've just got so much on the go that, you know, it just makes it difficult to feel like that you're getting anything done well, I suppose. So if you sit down at the same time each week, which I suggest to my clients, and look at least just a week ahead and see what's coming up for that week. You know, what costumes do you need for school? You know, and make a trip to the op shop or Kmart or wherever you need to go to get the costume for World Environment Day or whatever it might be. If you've got a doctor's appointment, you know, what documents do you need to take with you to get to that appointment? How long is it going to take to get there? So planning just gives you that focus and peace of mind. And so that's the little tiny things, but in the overall picture, it just helps you knowing where you're going. You know, otherwise you'll get to the end of the week and you've run around like a headless chook and you felt like you haven't got anywhere. So at least if you're sitting down mindfully thinking, well, in this week I need to do this particular project and have regular times in the diary to do that, where you can stay more focused. Or if you wouldn't start a marathon by just running.
Oh, one moment, it's cut out for a second.
Yeah, so you wouldn't decide one day that you were going to run a marathon. You'd have a training plan. So it's just like planning for anything in your life. You know, you would, as I said, get a plan. It would say which days you run on, which days you rest, and those sorts of things, so that you could build up to the marathon. So keeping that focus in your life and using that planning on a regular basis is a really important part when you're trying to juggle so many things at home.
Yeah, sounds good. I've actually started reading a book at the moment. It's called Me First by Kate Christie. And I started reading it because it's aimed at busy professional women and got kids. And I actually felt good as I read through it going, no, actually, I do feel like I'm in fairly good control of my day. And I guess I'm lucky that I do work from home, so I don't have to add in that commute and things. But otherwise, I am mindful and I keep track of, all right, I've learnt, all right, if I start dinner at 5:30, I know most of the time it's ready by 6. That's a good time for me. If I'm lazy and I don't start to 5:45, I know the whole night's going to be out of whack kind of thing. So yeah, you kind of, I think it's good if you take a note of how long things take and then you adjust your schedule accordingly and don't expect, oh, hey, I might get there in 15 minutes time, and you only give yourself exactly 15 minutes time to get there and park and everything else.
That's right.
Yeah. So how far in advance do you need to plan? Do you recommend, like you said, weeks, but months, a
Yeah.
year?
Yeah, I think a week is very manageable, but of course you'd be keeping your eye on bigger goals and bigger visions that you know want to achieve. You've had some amazing women on recently that have been talking about creating those visions and being right in them and really immersing yourself in it, and what do you feel like and what can you see in those sorts of things. So that big picture is really important. But what I talk to people about is, okay, well, you want to do all these things. Let's put it in the diary. We know how difficult it is, to catch up with a girlfriend for a coffee, or, do things for ourselves. So it's even more difficult to do some of those bigger picture things for your business or for your professional life. So just getting those little things in the diary. And as I said, if you're sitting down at the same time each week, looking at those appointments that are coming up and looking at special things at school so that you're not sending kids to school on a curriculum day and those sorts of things. But also, okay, you've got those big picture things you want to do, like if you wanted to start a podcast like you've done, Leanne, that, okay, well, when are you gonna do it? And put that time aside. So I feel that a week is a good amount of time at sitting down, looking forward to what you've got and really plotting it out and blocking out those chunks of time to be able to get those things done. And I sometimes call this with my clients worry time. They don't think and worry about it right now. Put it down in the diary, 2:00 on Thursday, that you're going to sit down and actually work on that project. So as I said, big picture things, you need a lot of time to be able to do them. But physically and mentally, a week is a good amount of time, I think, to be able to really plan, put your head down, and look forward to getting some things done and off of your to-do list.
Yeah, because I think if you do plan any further than a week, then it doesn't allow for enough flexibility if something comes up, and then you might find it hard to move things because everything's all locked in for the next 3 weeks. And I'm not very good with those kind of last minute changes. I can see a week is kind of manageable, and they're like, oh well, if anything, you run out of time, then it can easily overflow it to the next week. But if you have like 2 or 3 weeks, then it's kind of harder to do that.
Yes. Yeah. I find my clients find that much more manageable. Yeah.
Awesome. And so what are your recommendations for planning an ideal week? How do you go about it?
Yeah. What I generally do is print out an A3 weekly planner. So you've got Monday, Tuesday, all the way through. So the 7 days, and then start plotting things out. And so this is something that you would do probably on that weekly planning session, but it's really just a good one-off activity to do as well. Sit down and go, okay, well, work is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or whenever your actual work is. And then I'm going to get up at 5:40 and I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to go to bed at 9:30. I've got to do dancing with the girls on this day, and I've got to take the son to footy on this day. So to plot it all out, it really gives you an idea of what's going on, and you can see it. I know that some of my friends don't do that because it would just be too scary and they'd have a nervous breakdown.
See how much they got on, you mean?
All the things that they've got going. But as I said, just even as a one-off exercise, it gives you this great idea of why we are so busy. And if you've got important things to do, really make them a priority. So as I was saying, putting your things in for yourself, getting up in the morning and doing some exercise before the kids are even out of bed. And exactly what you said about getting dinner ready at the other end of the day, what you said was spot on. If you're doing it 15 minutes late, well, no, we're not, we're not in a camp where, yes, sir, we have to do it at 5 o'clock, but it probably means they're going to be in bed 15 minutes later. So if you can just have a good idea by plotting all of these important things, even when you're going to clean the toilet.
Yeah, I don't put that into my calendar.
Mine's Sunday. Well, I do it often, but I always clean the bathroom on Sunday. But, you just have these regular times of doing things and plotting it out because like I was saying about running around like a headless chook, if you're not sitting down and making time to do things, it just seems to fall off the radar. So that's an exercise I often run my working mums through, and they've written it all down and they go, wow, it's quite confronting to see it all written down, all the different things.
Yeah, it's probably good. Like those that freak out about having it written down, it is actually probably good to get it written down, and then you can see, do I actually need to do all this stuff? Like, is all this necessary, or can we cut some stuff out?
Yes.
Or going, all right, am I doing too much? Can I outsource? Which I'm going to go into in a minute.
Yes.
But I actually wanted to talk about, you mentioned the cleaning part. I'm not a very good cleaner. Like, we get a cleaner once a month, do a big thorough clean, but I'm otherwise not very good at doing. Look, I keep on top of the dishes. My routine every night is I do the dishes or my husband does the bath time. So that once the kids are in bed, we're clean kitchen, feeling good. But that's pretty much, and I, sweep the floor after the kids have eaten, standard stuff. But anything beyond that, I find it hard to schedule into my days. So what are your recommendations for, do you just have Sunday as your cleaning day for everything? Do you do a little bit every day, different tasks every day? How do you map out the cleaning?
A little bit every day works really well for a lot of people. Like I said, Sunday is my bathroom day. And, going back in the day to Shannon Lush that wrote the book Speed Cleaning. So it's about 15 minutes in a different area of the home every day. So it might be just today we're going to do the floors, and you just run around with the vacuum cleaner for 15 minutes. Sundays the bathrooms, Mondays the kitchen, or every day's the kitchen, I think, because you're often working at. But it's just a little bit done. Get a little bit done, should I say. I've mentioned this to a few of my clients, and they've gone, but then you don't get that everything's clean feeling. And I said, well, the everything clean feeling only lasts about 2 minutes in my house, so you might as well do what you can during the week. And then if you really wanted, you could run around on a Saturday morning and just do another quick run around. But I think what you're doing and just doing what you need to do and what works for your family is absolutely perfect, because people aren't going to be coming around and looking how clean your floors are. It's important for you everybody, women, to be doing what works for them and their family. And you're mentioning outsourcing. We'll talk about that shortly.
Yeah, because 15 minutes, I mean, that feels manageable. It's
Yes.
not like you can even set a timer and go, all right, what can I get done in 15 minutes? And then, and then you might even feel inspired to do a little bit more, and then you just do it.
Yes.
And so I guess it could be something you do either in that morning before the kids wake up, even if you have to get up that 15 minutes earlier or whatever the case may be. But I feel that, it does sound manageable. So maybe I'll...
Yeah, or even might be at the end of the day when you were saying that you do the dishes and the husband's doing the bath, even if it was a couple of minutes in between that time, that everybody's involved. And it's 5 minutes. That's how we sort of work it at my house. Dinner's done. Everyone clears the table, everybody does the dishes, everybody puts their washing away, and nobody goes to sit down. And it's only been happening in the last couple of years because everybody's gone and they're doing their fun things and I'm still at the sink. But everybody chip in for 5 minutes. That's, 5, 10, 15, 20, depending on how many people you've got in your house. And depending on the age of the children, obviously. But if everybody's chipping in at in those few minutes just after dinner time, that makes a big difference to how your home can function as well.
Oh, I like that. So, my kids are fairly young, so 6.5 and 3.5, but they can do things like take their washing up to their bedroom or even take the washing off the line because it's just an inside one, or emptying the dishwasher, which they enjoy doing. I just watch them like a hawk when it comes to the glass and the knives. But they go through moods, like days where all they want to do is help me, and they're so excited to help. And then there's periods where nothing. That's probably a matter of just starting those habits and going, all right, before bath time, quickly go take your washing upstairs, or clean the toy room, because that's otherwise a mammoth task once a month before the cleaner comes. And it's like, we have this, we threaten them with a plastic bag that we hang over the door of the toy room going, all right, if you haven't cleaned it up by 6 p.m. the day before the cleaner comes, it's all, or anything on the floor will go into this rubbish bag.
That's great.
And no joke, it's always like 5:59 they come out saying it's done. Anyway, okay, so
that's great.
We'll build up to it, even if it's bribery. So, okay, outsourcing. So when should you consider outsourcing the tasks?
Yes, and when we were talking about all the big list of things that we've plotted out on that week, that's definitely the time that we can have a look at and go, exactly what you said, who can do what? Do you need to do everything yourself as the mum or whoever's running the house? Or what can the kids do? What can your partner do? What can your mum do? What can your mother-in-law do? I know there's lots of people that haven't got that support around, but you know, there are people, friends or neighbours as well, to be able to ask for help. I've had some of my clients that their mother-in-law comes and looks after the kids, and so we say, well, could you ask her to fold some washing while she was there? And she was happy to help. You know, she was delighted to be able to do that, as well as, you know, she can keep an eye on the kids and fold washing at the same time. So, you know, putting your hand up and asking for help. So it doesn't have to be paid outsourcing. So to try, you know, your family and friends first. But then, if you're working full time and you know, your partner is as well, and the kids are daycare, and you know, it's a lot. So even if you can get some outside help, paid cleaners, gardeners, whoever it can be, I certainly think it's money well spent if you can afford it. So that's just one thing that's off of your to-do list, and let the experts do it. You know, they can prune the roses properly and get the toilet cleaned properly and those sorts of things. Again, we can do things in between, but being mindful about what we're trying to do with the home as well. I was talking to a client recently that she had a cleaner fortnightly that came in and did the floors, and the mum was finding it difficult to find time to mop the floors in between that. I said, what are you talking about? You want to wash your floors more frequently than once a fortnight. I mean, good on you if you can, but I said, how about you just drop that, let the cleaner do it every fortnight, and take one thing off of your to-do list. So definitely looking at paid outsourcing when you can afford it, just to lighten that mental load.
Yeah, because as I mentioned, we have a once a month cleaner, but in between that, I only really clean the floors apart from the little sweep if we've got people coming over.
Yeah.
And
yep.
Look, what we have joked, my husband and I, is that we sometimes invite people over just to force us to clean.
Yep.
And so like, all right, they're coming over. That means we have to then the day before, and usually we invite them on a Sunday, so we have Saturday to clean. And then do that mad, crazy clean, and like, oh, I feel good now and can enjoy. And look, I know friends or family won't care if things are a little bit messy, but for my own peace of mind. And actually, speaking of family, so my parents are over on a Tuesday to babysit, and my mum usually empties the dishwasher for me. So that's just that little, it just takes 5 minutes, and she knows where everything is, ironically better than my husband. So so she does that, and occasionally she might fold the washing as well, just without me asking. And
that's so nice.
Yeah, it's really helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are your tips on prioritizing actions when you have a very long to-do list?
Yep, there's a couple of different ways you can go about it here. If you're keeping your eye on those big picture things, the vision that some of the women, as I mentioned, been talking to you about recently, keeping your eye on those sorts of things really makes a difference. Like if you're saying to yourself that you want to, I'm just use a personal example, if you want to, get fitter, well, you know that making decisions during the week will mean that you need to schedule some time for exercise. And it also means get the meal planning. And so those things will automatically and easily come to the top of your priority list, because that's something that's big and it's on your vision and something that's important to you. And the same as if you were trying to do something in your business as well, that some big picture goal as well. So those sorts of things, if you want to, as I just did last week, launch a online decluttering program, which is very exciting. I knew that the things I needed to do, the 2 or 3 things or 1 or 2 things every day that I needed to do to get that program launched on the day that I told my followers I was going to do it, that those things quite quickly come to the top of your priority list. But if you're sort of just floating around again like that headless chook, it can be really difficult to set your priorities. And I know some people are very busy and are juggling things, but keeping your eye on that big picture can be very helpful. But there's also just a few questions that you can ask yourself, like, does this take me closer to my goal? Which is again about your goals and your visions. Does this lighten my mental load? Which is a big one for people. They're carrying things around with, oh, I should make that doctor's appointment, or I should do this, or I should do that. If you sit down and spend a couple of minutes on it, make that a priority, that will help lighten your mental load. And another one, when you're running your own business, which of these tasks will give us the highest payoff or make me the most money? So keep your focus on the money-making activities rather
than always important, yeah.
some of the, the shiny, nice, fun things to do. Or which of the 3 or 4 tasks on my list would move you closer and have a real impact on what you're trying to achieve. So some of those things just might make it a bit easier to set your priorities. But I think women in particular, just that I've worked with in particular, need to remember there's only 168 hours a week. We need to remind ourselves of that and give ourselves some grace, that so that we're not putting too much pressure on ourselves as to what we can achieve. Certainly push yourself and go for it, but trying to keep your focus a little bit narrower at the same time, so that you're not trying to do everything at once, and keep those priorities on top of mind.
Yeah, I love those questions, and I'll put them in the show notes for sure.
Right.
I think it's, just reflecting and going, all right, yeah. So, Kate Toon has said before, she has like a post-it note on her desk saying, is this the best use of my time? And so every time you find yourself scrolling through Facebook or something like that, going, okay, hang on. Unless you're putting a post out there, which is helping your brand, which ultimately will help with building your client base, etc., is it really worth it? And I've been doing a bit of this reflecting lately and I'm constantly going through it actually. Is it worth my time? Is it worth my investment, both financially and time wise? Like there's some networking groups I was going to, I enjoyed them, but was I actually either being inspired with new knowledge from them, or was I getting business from them? And if I didn't kind of tick either of those boxes or neither, then I thought, okay, maybe it's time to cut ties or only go occasionally to say hi or something like that.
Yes. Yeah. No, great to sit and reflect every now and then and see how you're using your time. It's a very worthwhile exercise to do just periodically to check where you're going.
Yeah, 100%. And so when it comes to, so planning, you mentioned paper before printing out. Is paper better or digital? Does that still work okay?
Yeah, it's, there's people in both camps. I would think there would be paper diary people and there's calendar diary people, paper diary, or some would be a mix. Personally, I love the digital one because it can remind us the things to do. 7 o'clock most mornings, I have a little ding on my phone that's connected to my calendar that would remind me, Charlie's got library, so he needs to take his library book. Or it's sports day today and Robbie to wear his sports uniform. And as they're growing up and they're managing those things themselves on their own iPad or phones, those sorts of things are starting to go over to them as a responsibility. But when they were smaller, and again, juggling things, and it's kinder, it's this, it's that, it's, take grandma to school day or whatever it might be, just to have that little ding that your paper diary can't give you, is really, really helpful, I find. A paper diary is a really great quick reference, though. I just mentioned this to a client yesterday, that we're trying to put the time to meet next fortnight. And here I am scrolling through my little phone, and I've got my big fat fingers on the buttons, and she's visually impaired. She's doing the same. So it would just be so easy to flick through the diary and find it and write it. And again, as most of us know, that writing just seems to help it stick in the brain as well, so to write it in the diary. But with a paper diary, you need to reference it often, obviously, because you're not going to get those dings or those reminders. And you need to guard your diary or your notebook with your life. Keep it handy, know where it is, because if it gets misplaced, that can be really tricky to remember what's coming up if it's not written down or backed up anywhere else. So there's a couple of different ways. What do you use yourself, Leanne?
So up until this year, I still had a paper diary.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it. Loved the old school, flipping through the pages, be able to see it all clearly, like my week. But I was actually using that more for my personal life and family life. Yeah. And then I got in the habit of using my Google Calendar for my work stuff. And so it was, so last year I tried using a quarterly planner, the Control Freak planner. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yes.
And it was really cool, and had all these different things like with budgeting and all these extra little bits and pieces in it, social media planning. Loved it. And of course, typical kind of thing, you're all excited, you fill it all out, you're really active with it to begin with. And then as time goes on, I was just using the one pager like a notepad. Yeah. And even though I was using, like, I've got this pen, the Pilot friction ones, the ones you're going to erase. Oh, yeah. And that was one factor, was if something, I map out my day, and then if something moved, I have to then erase and move it around. And I don't like scribbles all over paper and messy. Yep. I like to have it nice and clean. Yes. So that started getting to me a little bit. And so after trying that joint paper thing for 6 months, I thought, I need to go back to my Google Calendar. And I started color coding things. So I have like my green for meetings, my blue for working in the business, purple for family, mauve for client work, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I was doing that, and I felt good with that. But I still had the paper diary for my personal stuff. Okay. And it was only when I had a conversation with a friend, and I was feeling a bit overwhelmed with things at the time, and she said, you need to have everything in one place. You can't, because then you just don't know, and things overlap and you're confusing yourself. Yeah. So as of January this year, 2020, I'm going all digital. It was a bit scary, but I do have a reminder in my calendar on a Friday at 5:00 to back it up, because that was my biggest thing. Yeah. And back it up, and I maybe do it every fortnight. Don't always do it every week, but I feel like digital, the alerts pop up telling me, they pop up on my phone as well as my computer. And I think if I'm really planning something, and someone talks to me while I'm on my phone away from my computer, I'll say I'll come back to them later when I can look at my computer screen, which is a big screen, and see my whole week mapped out. And then I can see if I can fit them in for that week or the following week. So I feel that's working really well for me. I know everyone's a bit different, but yeah.
Yeah, I use the Google Calendar myself as well for everything. Once upon a time, I used to sort of do both and juggle both, have it on a wall calendar. And then it's just synchronizing it was tricky. So I did the same as you a couple of years ago, made the jump just to Google Calendar. But I do print it out on a Sunday, sort of in A3 size, just 2 A4 pieces, so that I can see it, like you're saying, the whole week in advance, and see what clients I've got coming on. And then if I'm on the phone, I can quickly have a look. And I use it for note taking and tick it when I've sent invoices and made my notes and all of those sort of admin things too during the week. I use that as a bit of a note taking thing. I don't particularly do much with it after that. I do take a photo and store it, but it's just something that I've got there, and again I can see the whole week printed out, which is nice and easy. But nothing like that little reminder, little ding to tell you to do something, and you go, Oh, yes, good. Okay, I'll go and do that now.
Yeah. Or time to switch projects so you don't
Yes,
overcommit your time to something.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I do like that, because then I could, I mean, I've only got a printer that could print A4, but even so, even if it's just printed A4, just doing little
Yes,
notes, or just be able to tick something off. I guess that's that mental thing of
yes,
feeling you've achieved something by
yep,
ticking it off on the paper.
yep,
'Cause I guess on Google, it just kind of fades out and that's it. But that says a
right.
satisfaction if you're ticking it off on paper.
That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you. That's really great. And now I always ask my guests this: how do you manage your own health and wellness?
Not surprisingly, it's quite routine and quite organised. So as I mentioned before, I get up at 5:40 each weekday, and I run 3 days a week and walk a couple of days and walk on the weekends as well. So it just gives me time to get up, do some stretching and some yoga, then go for the run. I often run to the local bakery, get the kids rolls or fresh bread, whatever we're having for the day for lunch, lucky kids, and my husband as well, and then gives me time to run home again. And so I have about an hour. I'll get Charlie up at 7, so I've got almost an hour and a half to myself before anybody says, "Mum, mum this, mum that, mum," So just give me some time. So that's sort of how I look after my health. Well-being, which is all connected, obviously. I'm getting much better at sitting down and doing nothing. And that's what I've learned actually just in the last few months, being in isolation. I've always, since I was born, been in a hurry, always wanting to get things done and get them done quickly. And if my grandma has the dinner ready, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, you can probably see where I get it from. But that being, always on the go. But when we were home during isolation, I just thought there's nothing to rush to. I had no clients. I was working on my business. I'd get up every day and put my uniform on, and I'd still sit and do hours of work and working on the business and writing blogs and those sorts of things. But I didn't have anywhere to run to. So I just very recently really been trying to stay in the moment and reading and listening to Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, and the benefit of being right here, right now. And that has done such a lot to my mental health and my just my overall well-being, to realize that there is no rush. So it's been really nice, and something I've been enjoying sharing with a lot of my clients too, that are often feeling in a similar way, juggling lots of things, running from here to there. That what's the rush?
I love that. And so much what you just said sounds so much like me as well. I was getting up, or my alarm would go off at 6, and then I'd eventually get up 6:15, and then my kids can wake up at any time between 6:30 and 7. And I actually just recently, a couple of weeks ago, started setting my alarm for 5:45, so that I have 5-10 minutes to wake myself up, then get out of bed, do 10-15 minutes of meditation. And then it's always like, oh, what should I do with my time now before the kids wake up? And it's like, oh, maybe I'm starting to journal. I'm trying to get back into journaling in the morning. I haven't got back into running at that time, because I feel like it's a little bit too cold, but I'm trying to squeeze it in after school drop off. But yeah, I like that time to myself, because what I do find is, if I don't set my alarm, even on weekends, I'm starting to do this on weekends too, the alarm thing, because otherwise I start the day on the back foot. It starts when the kids come in and say, "Wake up, mum," or "I'm hungry." And then I feel like I'm just straight away in responding mode rather than what I need.
Yes.
And so I do like getting up first. And it's always a gamble if they're going to be waking up at 7:15, or they're coming into me at 6:30. But that for sure. And definitely in terms of COVID recently, I've had that whole thing as well. Like, I don't need to rush anywhere, and it's kind of nice not having to get the kids out the door and rush. And it actually made me realize, I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast yet, but I was only working 4 days a week and having Mondays with my youngest. And I did that with my eldest until she started school, had that one day with her. But what I actually realized was that one day with my youngest, I'd be squeezing so much into that day, like running the errands I was too lazy to do on the weekend or ran out of time, then get into swimming lessons and then have maybe a coffee briefly, but then get home and then keep an eye on the clock, have to school pick up, then home for a bit, then swimming lessons with my eldest. And I'm like, am I actually bonding with my youngest properly? Or am I just cramming too much unnecessarily into a day and then I'm playing catch up? It's like having a long weekend, on the Tuesday and everything like that. So it actually made me realize I'm better off working 5 days, having quality time with the girls on the weekend, like dedicating that time, and then being able to earn enough to then have a holiday and have weeks or a couple of weeks or a week.
Yeah, that's lovely.
So it kind of took that going, I'm not really bonding with her, not really having that dedicated day with her. It's just a time watching day and stressful because if she's dragging her feet at all. Is it's actually helping. She's better off having another day at preschool, which she loves.
Yes, she would.
And so I recently came to that realization that am I actually serving myself, my family by having that day off?
Yeah, that's great. Great realization.
Yes, sometimes you need that kind of wake up call, don't you?
That's right.
So okay, and how can people connect with you?
Yeah, sure. My website, spaceandtime.com.au, has all of the services, including decluttering and time management. And as I mentioned, the new Declutter Your Life online programs, all the details are there. I'm very busy on Facebook, a couple of times a day, lots of people asking their organising questions on there. So that's Space and Time or Professional Organising, and Instagram is at Space and Time Organising. So there's lots of different platforms there that people can reach out, but would love to hear from people if they have any questions specifically. They'd be able to find those contact details on the website.
Perfect. Thank you so much. The course definitely sounds good. The program, I have to go check it out. But yes, thank you so much. And I love the business name as well. It's a very simple and just it's exactly what you do.
Well, if you have your space and your time organised, well, you're probably halfway there.
That's it. So thank you so much for joining us today, Julie. And thank you to you, dear listener, for tuning in. You can find show notes for the episode at marketingandme.com.au. If you enjoyed listening, please subscribe and leave me a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice. And if you're interested in connecting with me, feel free to reach out via LinkedIn. Just search for Leanne Shelton, and you can join the Marketing and Me podcast Facebook group. If you do want to learn more about generating more leads or outsourcing your copywriting to me, head to my website, righttimemarketing.com.au, and book in a free 30-minute discovery call. Until next time, I wish you good health and good wealth.